Welcome to Behind the Scenes of Michael.
C-Mark!
After Bohemian Rhapsody, I had a lot of people come to me about making their life write stories.
We had a lot of conversations about what to do next. How do you top something like Bohemian Rhapsody? Do you do something completely different? Do you stay in the biopic world? And it was really one day, it was almost as if a lightning bolt came down and hit Graham. And he turned around to me and he said, "All I want is the right to make Michael Jackson's movie." And I thought, okay, aiming big, okay.
That's ambitious.
I can see it. You see it, you can do it. I see it so clearly.
Michael Jackson played to the world on every performance. And in the world we're living in today, if we can bring people together through this movie and give them an insight into Michael and a point of view of Michael that they've never seen before, then we've done our job.
Okay, let's go out there and tear that stage up.
Because you have to sort of remove the superstar and try to get some understanding of what were the things in his life that created this amazing person, this incredible talent.
You have to really pick and choose the moments. You know, a lot of times you make these, what we call biopics, and the press just rip you apart because you didn't cover this or you didn't cover that. And you've really got to kind of sit down and do a roadmap of what's a cinematic story.
This is our last and final tour. I think this is our farewell tour.
I knew it was going to be a challenging story, a fascinating story. But at the end of the day, Michael Jackson is a great American artist. And I knew there was a story there about how that poor kid from Gary became a superstar. And that's what I wanted to do.
One of our biggest challenges and our biggest fears was, what if we can't find a Michael? Because if everything else falls into place, it's never going to matter if people don't believe this is actually Michael Jackson.
When I was talking to people in Hollywood about it, how are you going to find him? Oh, we'll find him. But then I'd get in my car and go, I don't know how we're going to do this. But I was talking to Jermaine Jackson one day, who I've known for over 40 years, saying, I want to meet your son, Jafar.
He reached out to my father to get in contact with me. And at that time, I knew he had the rights to the Michael Jackson story, but there was no director attached or a studio attached. And in my mind, I was like, I wonder why he's reaching out.
And 10 minutes into the lunch, I asked him if he was auditioning to play his uncle.
He thought I was auditioning for him in that lunch, and I was completely being myself. I was not putting on anything.
It sounds crazy, but it kind of shook my whole being. It just really, this can't be true. I've just met the perfect person to play Michael Jackson.
Are you actually really?
Yeah, I'm Michael.
Wow.
So after the lunch, I remember calling my partner Lydia and saying, I think we found him.
And I went, what do you mean? We found him. Don't worry, just trust me on this. I'll explain later. Hung up the phone. And to be honest, I thought Graham was stark raving mad. Here's a guy who has never acted before. He's never danced. He seemingly doesn't even want to be in the industry. And so I really didn't understand it until I met Jafar Jackson.
Tails?
He immediately said, I want to take on that fight. And I said, it will be a fight. But I said, I'm going to put you through what I called the Rami Malek training course.
I have never seen anybody work as hard as Jafar.
So I get this call from Graham King, and he said, I understand you work with newcomers, and we're doing the Michael Jackson movie, and there's a kid that I really think can do this role, but I'm not going to set him up to fail.
It started with what is acting and learning the acting side of it first before even diving into Michael.
Jafar and I sat down and we talked about Michael. We talked about him being his uncle, and I told him, I said, now, we got to get you away from playing your uncle. We got to get you to act.
I need you to fire Joseph.
I mean, how would you like me to do that?
Quickly.
And then once you understand what that is, then we'll go back and we'll embody your uncle, and we'll look at and find similarities. Because sometimes you feel like, well, Michael is this iconic figure, but Michael was a human being.
I'm gonna look him straight in the eye. This is my life. My path.
And I asked him, I said, Jafar, what is the goal? Jafar's words to me when I said, why do you want to do this role? He said, I want to wipe my uncle's slate clean by showing his humanity.
Once I had the feeling that I was heading towards the right direction, I wanted to amplify my training even more. So I went to Havenhurst and kind of set up as a playground, really, where I can go and explore and learn things about Michael and create this research room where I put everything I can find on Michael, all of his dislikes, all of his likes, what he loves to eat, what he doesn't like, you know. So I just wanted to familiarize myself with everything about Michael in a place where he lived and where I grew up as well. It's a timeline from 1962 all the way until 1996, which is the year I was born. And it's very inspiring, and I'm always referencing this timeline if I feel I need it to inform me more on the world of that specific moment in the script.
And so the preparation kept growing and growing and growing. And he kept saying to me, do you think this is going to work out? And I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure yet.
It was a long shot for this guy to pull this off. So we went on a search for Michael Jackson, and we went around the world and auditioned many people.
We looked at maybe 180, 200 impersonators, for the most part, impersonators.
And while they were all good, it came pretty clear that no one even came close to the level of Jafar.
You can pretend to be someone, or you could become something, like become that person and really embody the character. And Jafar really embodied the character.
He used a room in Havenhurst that used to be the dining room, and he put walls of mirrors and a sound system, and he danced all day until his feet were bloody and bruised, until he literally couldn't stand up anymore. And he would take a short break and he would do it again.
And Graham was like, I need you guys to tell me the truth, that does he have rhythm? Can he hold up to do 7, 8, 10 music numbers, concert performances? Does he have it?
And I said to Rich and Tone, get him in a rehearsal room, give him some training, and let me know what you think.
We used Billie Jean as the test to see if he has rhythm. Can he stay in pocket? Does he have the right posture? Does he have the same kind of ability just to be a human on stage and capture that same essence? I would say after the first week with Jafar, it was a little rough. We weren't convinced. Yeah.
They came to me and said they don't think he has it. They don't think he has what he takes. He didn't have that same rhythm. He didn't have the kind of moves. They didn't think he could control his body the way Michael did. And I didn't show them, but I was heartbroken. I was heartbroken, but not giving up either. Called Jafar, and I remember him saying to me, do they not think I have it? And I said, look, they're not sure you can climb the mountain with the amount of work and put that pressure on you. And he said, can you give me 3 weeks?
And I think it was the third week is when we finally realized, oh, he has the work ethic. Because the work ethic is one thing that I feel like beyond talent, like everybody, you know, he's super talented, but it's the work ethic that's going to get you over the hill.
And after 3 weeks, he called me and he asked me to come to Havenhurst. And he put a show on that you wouldn't believe.
And I invited them to Havenhurst and put on a performance as Michael for about 20 minutes. And I think that was the moment where it was like, okay, this kid's got it. And I think that's what solidified it.
Hats off to Jafar for spending 2 years of hard work to prepare for this. It's the kind of work ethic that Michael had.
There was a point where we realized he needed to be in a class.
And so he went into the acting class, and I think it was Graham's idea to put him just around a bunch of peers who were honing in on their acting.
No one knew who he was. He went in anonymous. That was the prerequisite.
I think it was partway through the class where one of the students leaned over to him and he said, "You know what, they're auditioning for the Michael movie now. I think you'd be really great at it. You should go for it." And Jafar just smiled in that wonderful, beautiful, sweet smile he has, and he just goes, "Yeah, I'll think about it." And it wasn't long after that that we actually knew that Jafar had the role.
2.5 years ago, I woke up one morning and I don't know what got into my head. I just don't. These things happen. And I called Michael's brother, Jermaine, and I said, "I want to meet your son, Jafar."
And having Graham come and announce that I had the part in front of my classmates, which they didn't know while I was there, really preparing for Michael, which was so great. But it was amazing to see and feel that and to experience it with my classmates there.
It was very bittersweet. It's that scary leap where you can't hide behind anymore of, no, we can't do this, or is this really happening? But that day that we took Jafar to his acting class, that was a really special moment.
It started to come together, and you could feel the magic. And no Jafar, no Antoine Fuqua. No Jafar, no movie. No Jafar, no studio supporting it. So I was like, he is the center. He's the plug. You plug him in, the movie comes alive.
Show me a couple moves. They could kind of show you something and laugh about it. Like, okay. Yeah, you got to teach me that. Like, maybe there's something like that.
That was juicy right there. What was that?
I never thought I would be making a Michael Jackson movie, but Michael was always in my life as far back as I can remember. The Jackson 5, seeing him on Soul Train or something, someone that looked like me, same color as me, had a little afro back then, right? All that stuff.
Producers live or die by their choices. And this one particularly, I wanted to not rush into that decision. So I was meeting with directors maybe 2 or 3 times, the same directors. And everyone has a point of view on Michael, right? And we all do.
Watch, I make this record for everybody, white and black.
As Michael evolved, and I moved into filmmaking, directing. I was doing videos at the time. So I watched Michael break the ceiling and become the first black artist on MTV.
Okay, playback. Action.
And that's what I was trying to do as a filmmaker.
Antoine's music background and his dramatic storytelling background were the right ingredients for me.
And, Michael was like a diamond, and you turn it in the light, and those facets get illuminated. And we explored all of them. And I never at any point felt there's things we couldn't say, couldn't deal with. We explored everything. And finally, in the natural process of making a movie, working with Graham or Lydia Silverman, then with Antoine, you finally find the movie. And then the actors tell you more about what the movie is, and eventually you have the movie. And that process can be grueling. It can be liberating. It can be exciting. But it is the standard process of writing a big movie.
We really had to start from the beginning. And it was really all the pieces of Michael's formative years that made him who he was.
I'm not like the other kids. They don't treat me like a real person. And all they want to do is stare at and take pictures of me.
But it was also a challenge. Because the first part of the movie, the first Michael you see is our young Michael. And it doesn't matter how well Jafar does for the rest of the film. If you're not hooked into that Michael, everything else falls apart.
But Giuliano came in and there was almost like a star above his head and a light shining on him. He had confidence. He was cocky. He was so, I know how to be Michael Jackson.
I love Michael Jackson, and I'll always be a fan of him, and
To get a role as young Michael Jackson is a dream come true for me.
I remember Graham sent me the tape of Giuliano, and I was kind of blown away of how much he understood the role. He wasn't pretending. He got the accent right, the Indiana accent. You know, he really did his homework.
To get how he talked, I had to watch his interviews and, Ed Sullivan, when he would talk.
Michael, how old are you?
I'm 8, sir.
And I also watched some of his videos, like ABC, to get, the dancing down. And I worked so hard.
To his credit, it's not easy to be young Michael Jackson. It's not easy to bring that to life, right, without trying to just be cute. You got to really play the role.
Well, you sang that song better than Smokey himself.
Really?
Giuliano is a force of nature. This little kid he's got it. And I didn't realize when I met him that he does Michael Jackson on the weekends or whatever. This is what he sort of impersonates Michael Jackson, but the older Michael Jackson.
So I was like, wait, what? Yeah, and I literally YouTubed some of his videos. I was like, oh my God, he's moonwalking all over Los Angeles. So it was a kind of a concern. I loved it, but it was a concern. I was like, you can't do that anymore. But you've got the job of playing young Michael. But guarantee me you'll stop doing that.
When I got the role, I practiced little Michael Jackson. I didn't know much about his dancing. My choreographers told me to go home and practice even more. And I did. I practiced a lot. I memorized that. Yeah. Put that in the DVD.
Giuliano is extraordinary. I remember first meeting him and feeling that energy from day one. I mean, he has such an old soul, but at the same time, he's so electrifying, and it's infectious, that energy that he brings to set, and it's so Michael. He has that in his eyes. He doesn't have to say anything, and that was something that Michael had, and for a kid to have that, and just naturally, is rare. And I felt that from Giuliano from day one.
And I remember when we found him, it was a big relief.
Well, welcome to Family Feud, everybody. I'm your man, Steve Harvey. We got the Johnson family and the Barry Gordy family. Give me Barry, give me Michael. Here we go.
And the fact that Giuliano, a performer so young, could manage both absolutely incandescent musical joy and really heavy drama with Coleman Domingo is extraordinary.
You think you did good? Is that right, Michael?
Yes, Joseph. We did good.
I thought the idea to humanize this icon, Michael Jackson, and his family, was interesting from jump, immediately. Like, who wouldn't want to jump in there?
Joe Jackson was a complicated guy. I know everyone thinks of him as one kind of note, but he was way more complicated than that. And I think that's what Coleman really got attracted to, was the layers.
Nobody else will understand you outside this place. You'll be with all the money in the world, surrounded by people who say yes to everything. Is that what you want? And I thought, here's a great opportunity, because I think the court of public opinion sheds a very complex and dark light onto Joseph Jackson. And I thought, here's my opportunity to find the light in him, to find the love in him, to find all those other things that people say about him that, sort of get buried underneath the very strong father who was really diligent and rigorous with his children. You got a lot to learn about family. And Mumpy don't like strawberry, he likes chocolate.
I grew up with my grandfather. I had a softer side of him, but to see the things that Coleman brought out of him that will help audiences understand Joseph even more was important.
And sometimes you need to get out of the way. Otherwise, you're going to lose them.
It's so interesting when I look over the cast of characters of the movie. In many ways, for me, when I was writing it, the most invaluable character was Catherine.
I knew you were different the moment you were born. I knew you were different from your brothers, and that's okay. You have a very special light.
The sort of friction and sparks between Joe and Michael are so compelling and really on the spine of the story. But the safe harbor in this movie is Catherine. I needed that character to be someone Michael could love and be vulnerable with.
You just know that no matter what happens, I'm gonna be here for you.
I watched a lot of footage. I read a lot of history. I mean, there's so much stuff on the internet, but there are very few real interviews with Catherine. And the one thing that was very obvious to me from the beginning was everyone would be sitting for a family interview, and everyone would look to Catherine for approval, even if she said, mm-hmm. They needed her approval because she's the grounding force of that family.
Seeing Nia channel Catherine, my grandmother, was so warming, and I really appreciated the love she had for it just by seeing what she was doing, and so reminiscent of my grandmother and just the matriarch of the family, and to hold her own in that it gave me chills. It really did.
And I was thinking, you put her and Coleman together.
What'd you say to me?
I said you can't do it no more. You can't whoop nobody.
The soft against the more bullied, harder, aggressive personality. That could be a wonderful chemistry.
Everything I've done is for this family.
You go on ahead and keep thinking that. I would break character and crack a joke here, but it's always Coleman's fault. It's never me being silly. It's always Coleman and I having a moment in the corner.
She's got such a fire and a fuel in her, and a beauty and a grace. You don't get it right, next time you're gonna feel my belt. Again. Nia, she joins a nice cadre of my wives. I've been very blessed to have some good wives. Whether it's Regina King or Gabrielle Union, but I'm like, Nia Long fits right in there.
Come on now.
Meet Bill Bray. He's your new head of security, all right? Now, he's gonna be around a lot.
Life in movies is so strange. It's something called divine order. It just happens, and again, it's a feeling. It's hard to describe it sometimes in the proper context. Bill didn't have a role as big as it became. He was always going to be present as sort of a bodyguard guy that was around.
Bill Bray was Michael's surrogate father. There's no question about it. And we've all seen, I think, online the letters that Michael wrote and how he felt about Bill. And Keelan has such a softness.
Where you want to go?
But he also has a very powerful look. And, you know, he's in a lot of scenes in the movie where he doesn't have any dialogue. And he just looks.
It can be tricky to not have as much dialogue, I guess. And it's challenge is a good word, a generous word, like maybe too big a word, but it's just part of the work, because whether I'm doing a Shakespearean soliloquy or I'm standing behind Michael Jackson, I still have to have the inner life and everything that goes on, whether it's what I had for breakfast that morning, or do I like Michael's music, or just do I like Michael? You know, like all of these things are things that I'm thinking about as Bill and as Keelan. It's a fun exercise, and I'm certainly growing as an artist, but just living in it is human, you know?
I need my freedom.
Well, move out.
And I remember going to Graham, and I was like, this guy's really interesting. He's really interesting. And then Graham was like, yeah, I know. And I said, he's going to be the witness.
Get back! Get back!
He's the witness of what Michael's going through. Through his lens, you get to see Michael.
I guess it's sort of inherent and natural, organic, I guess is the word I want to use, because we do kind of tease each other and mess with each other in a way that I assume that Bill and Michael did.
That's the trick. I knew it. There you go.
And little by little, his part grew.
I agree. I'm just doing what I'm told.
I was too young. I wasn't even born when they were traveling everywhere around the world, but I got to read a lot and hear stories and to see how important that relationship was to Michael. And then to portray that and see what Keelan brought to Bill Bray, I was able to feel that and understand it more clearly.
And then watching Jafar embody his uncle, it's just infectious, you know what I mean? The spirit of Michael, the music of Michael, and just how it all made us feel.
Rich and Tone, I'd met very early on in the process because whoever was going to play Michael needed to be trained and be trained by the best. And Rich and Tone were very close to Michael.
When I heard that Rich and Tone were Michael Jackson's background dancers, I was like, what? And I was like, I have so many questions to ask them.
And so, to me, they were critical to this process.
There was moments that we could replicate, but there was other moments that he really had to dig deep and trust the process.
Be conscious of your hands.
Yeah.
Right? Like what? Because when you did this into this, like I was like, yes.
Trust our words. Trust what we had to bring to the table per our history with Michael Jackson. That vibe he's on,
yeah,
everything was like, you know what I mean?
You know what I mean? His snap is like,
yeah,
so
yeah.
Right.
And the hips, it was all about the hips.
To prepare someone to be Michael Jackson, the greatest entertainer all time, is not easy because you need the physical transformation and then you need the performance and the technique to be able to dance like him and everything.
He would put on music and go to Havenhurst and study and channel his uncle and start doing some dance moves.
And that really helped me to embody him and also learning his work ethic with training. And he spent 6 hours on just trying to do one move and get it right, and then still he's not satisfied with it.
About a good 2-3 months before we started shooting, we had him training with a ballet specialist.
We know that Michael basically did every style of dance throughout his career, and it's important to teach Jafar his weight transfer, where his body's at during his turns, and just, you know, a better overall understanding of the body and what his center and core is.
He started like this for the spin, but it eventually went into this.
You know, Jafar in the beginning had a problem with the traditional Michael spin, where you lean into it. And the reason being is because Michael had this innate ability to center himself back up in his spins that allowed him to spin like a top and keep his energy going up, 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 rather than staying at an even level playing field, where most people, when they turn and their shoulders are off, will spin at an angle. So with Jafar, we spent quite some time basically just helping him understand that when he dives into something, he's got to get back center.
And we had a street dance specialist, popping specialist.
Popping was created by the Electric Boogaloo's, and Michael saw a performance of the Electric Boogaloo's and got in touch with us to come and teach him. We'll be working exactly the same stuff, the same way, it feels the same.
Sugar Pop, who we actually brought in to be that with the other trainer. So what was specific with that was making sure that not only that he had the popping styles, but the
styles, the dances of the time.
It feels like the first time we went into a studio with Michael, just the presence, Jafar, the way he interprets the movement. It reminds me of, you know, first meeting his uncle.
So with this process, you know, we were putting him through some rigorous, arduous hours, you know, at least 2-3 hours with the ballet instructor and 2-3 hours with Sugar Pop, to where it started to build his body in a way and understand the language that we were going to start communicating to him when we started the process of filming and rehearsals.
1 and playback.
Good first take.
Yeah, the first 2 weeks of shooting were intense from all sides, but really physically costing.
So the reason we started off with the concert was because it's such hard work to prepare, to get your body ready, the conditioning, the choreography, the singing, because you're still acting while you're doing all this, right? It's better to start that way, at least in this case, so that he didn't get burnt out and so that he stayed in the right condition to do all the things we needed him to do on that stage.
I remember sitting with Jafar saying, You know, if we get you into playing Michael on stage and the dance moves, and you can put that behind you, and we've got that banked. I know you've not acted before, but I'm telling you, it'd feel downhill after that for you.
It also gave him a chance to sort of get used to being in front of the camera, in front of all the people, and sort of shake the cobwebs, if you will.
I was also worried about if he does the drama first and he's insecure over that, are we going to get the confident Jafar on stage?
Bad was the first day, and that's a big taking off. You know, you want to get that right.
You know, when the approach to each of the concerts was, I think there's an element of the tour, you know, of being in the audience, you know, elements that we expect from the sort of big arena tour.
All right, and then here, so then that's all sort of very crowd-centric, again, performance, but we're taking a little bit of heat off Jafar, and it's more about the energy, the size, the scale of the production. Very kinetic.
But then beyond that, I think, in terms of telling the story, where is he? Like when we shot Bad, for example, story-wise, he had just separated from his family. He had just announced the Victory Tour that he, you know, was no longer touring, and we do this transition into Michael in his sort of leather and straps, and you know, this is a new sort of persona for him.
I'll admit, when I first got to study the original Bad Jacket, to me that's when it became real.
Michael's costumes are iconic, and Michael's costumes also evolved over the years, and it told you a lot about his character, or the character he wanted you to see.
The way he would pick certain outfits to do performances to stand out, or the contrast in the scene that he's in. And he was such a genius with that.
Jafar is wearing an exact replica of the jacket that Michael wore for that performance on the Bad tour.
It just felt so cool to have it on, and hearing the buckles and the zippers move when I'm moving with the dance moves.
I know in those moments, Jafar's like, I don't have to worry about if it feels and it looks right, because she's gonna make sure it's right.
And so as we hit the stage in that look, we press sort of past the audience perspective. And I think that was, you know, one of the things we really played with is you've got, you know, 100,000 people and the camera's the back of Wembley Stadium, and there's this tiny figure performing on the stage, and then we're also up inside of his personal space, you know, sort of feeling him, hearing him breathe and sing and perform.
I just remember thinking piece by piece with this one, because the energy was so hot, and he had to do this all day. Every angle I was filming from, all day.
Mind you, this is Jafar's favorite number. And he pulled us to the side. He was like, man, you know, obviously I want to get everything right, but this one, you know, I grew up as a kid learning this, you know, learning the song, learning the lyrics, you know, but the dance was always sort of intimidating.
I had to have a full body experience and fully commit to it. And I honestly keep saying to myself, if it wasn't for those performances up first, I'm not sure how the dramatic stuff would have went starting off, you know, right away. I think that really allowed me to fall into it in a natural way.
Who's bad? Well, one of the key things with the film is that we were lucky and blessed to film in California, filming here in LA, which you don't get to do too often. The opportunity to actually make it authentic, to really be in the real place, makes a world of difference.
Havenhurst, shooting there, shooting in the front room, shooting in the kitchen, was incredible for us because we didn't really need to be any more authentic than that.
This property was purchased in 1971 for my grandpa, Joseph, and uncles, my father, they all moved out here in the early 70s. And it did not look like this. It was a different style of a home, but it was the property, the land. That's still, you know, the acreage, that's still the same. Michael remodeled this in, I believe in 1982, 83, to make it look like this, that English Tudor style that he loved, very fantasy, fairy tale-like.
You know, you wouldn't even think that Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 and the whole family, so much of it took place behind these gates that you don't even see. It's sort of in the middle of the road, and you go over and it's like this gate. And then when you go through there with all that history, you can start to feel it, right? And it keeps you honest. Havenhurst always kept us honest because that's where it all happened.
The great thing of having the estate be part of this film and being the producing partners too is that you had all this access.
The little bits and pieces and nuances had to be there.
So when you think about how incredible it is that we actually got to shoot at his real house in the real place, it's pretty mind-boggling, you know? We would all be like, my crew and I would turn to each other and go, we're in Michael's bedroom in his closet. This is crazy.
I can show you something really scary that I wouldn't recommend doing.
Uh-oh.
You want to see it?
Oh my gosh.
Just another room.
The fact that the estate itself were that generous to share as much as they could do with us and let me put it back to its kind of original eras, at least looking at the two eras that we see in the film.
And what ended up happening is that we were able to find many of the pieces that were there originally. There were things like stacked in the garage. There had been a water leak, and we pulled them out and had all the draperies cleaned. And so there were real surprises at Havenhurst that worked in our favor, right? To make it was completely accurate. It was exact.
It had really nobody living consistently there, so it gave us that opportunity to be able to go in and really restore the upstairs completely, recarpet, redo the walls. And, you know, they loved it because it was coming back in memory of the time when Michael lived there.
Just to be in the same place where Michael created those moments and had a lot of those moments was completely immersive for me.
It's a level of authenticity that you can't create. It really, you feel the spirit of Michael, which resonates throughout the entire crew.
So much history. The minute you walk in the door, you feel Michael's presence.
We shot in Catherine and Joe's bedroom at Havenhurst. And so there were moments when Nia and I were like, okay, we have to allow the spirits of this room to inform this scene as well. Because energy is still left over. I believe that.
Welcome to Havenhurst.
It was so cool. I never thought in a million years that I would be at Michael Jackson's house where Billie Jean was created. And I remember being so excited. I was running around his house and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the counter where he put his hand on.
This is where, like, he slept and he ate breakfast. And there was one day where, like, mine and Jafar's holding area was in Michael's studio. And Jafar, being his nephew and spending time there in his life, was showing me around and telling me, well, this is the original, like, engineering board that was there, and seeing the mirrors. And I went in there and did a little spin. It was like, oh, Michael might have spun right here, kind of thing, you know?
I see. Welcome to my office.
Yeah. And then there were times where at Havenhurst where we had just logistically, we had to recreate a set.
Wow.
Looks just like it, doesn't
This
it?
is it. This is very
Got
cool.
the words, too.
Even when we can't be authentic, we're authentic.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Right?
That looks so. We should go over there and check that out because that looks great.
Oh, that's incredible.
This is sick.
A+, unbelievable.
It looks just like it. Smells like it too.
Every scene is an event for our event film.
100%.
Right? Every scene. It's insane.
That's crazy.
Very emotional.
When we were in the house, at Michael's house, we only saw down the hallway in the real bedroom. And then we built that bedroom on stage so we would have more flexibility in how it was shot.
I mean, you could tell off this door.
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah. Fireplace. The bed that pulls down.
They had a challenging job, even dressing Michael's room, because Michael's room was full of things, all sorts of, toys and scuba diving from like the 50s or 60s or something like that. He had everything in there,
So we did get some things from the estate that we added in that we knew were his. So there was a lot of that going on too.
This scene and why it's so important is Michael Jackson having just won 8 Grammys. We want to recreate exactly a famous photograph of Michael holding all 8 Grammys among the press pool.
The Grammys is Michael's real Grammys, and the estate was kind enough to bring them. And we're also the first movie they allowed the Grammys to be used in the way we use them. So everything was a first, the way Michael would want it.
Without the estate, it never would have been as accurate, or would have been so difficult to obtain any of those things. We'd have to recreate it from scratch.
The team tried really hard to stick to the authentic look of what Michael's room would be, and we at the estate even brought in some of the items that belonged to Michael to really bring the authenticity to the set. And it's really great to be able to kind of be back in this space and be taken back to those days and those memories that I really cherish and love.
They made my life so much easier. I'm really appreciative of them.
And there were times when I was at the Havenhurst set in Michael's bedroom, and we'd be there for a meeting and looking through certain things. And when I walked back out onto the stage, it was almost like I was jolted back to reality. And I had literally forgotten that I wasn't in the Havenhurst house. And it sounds ridiculous, but it was so true, because they did just that. Every single detail was exactly correct. From set deck, from props, from lighting. It was like I've never seen before.
So authenticity was certainly important for me and Graham and Jafar, for the fans.
Can we stop a sec?
Cut!
That was great. You guys were perfect. Just keep warm. Stretch out for a second.
You have to understand the importance of Thriller. More specifically, the making of Thriller videotape. What I got as a 14-year-old budding special effects makeup artist was the very first footage of a behind-the-scenes on set with my idol at the time, Rick Baker, who a whole generation of makeup artists were idolizing. But we physically now got to see Rick, an interview talking to Rick about his work, what he had done.
What's important to remember is a moment like the Thriller sequence in this movie was so much a part of our lives as makeup artists growing up that it's hard to deny the influence it had on us. Rick Baker as an artist has influenced so many people in this business.
That video alone spawned hundreds of makeup artists. Anybody I knew remembers specifically the first time they saw it, how it affected them.
And when it came to Thriller, it would have been easy for the producers to look at the time frame and count the dollars and say, we have to do this where maybe we have one makeup artist handling 2 or 3 makeups and we just do a longer pre-call, meaning we have a little bit more time before we start shooting to put more work on one person.
What is the best possible version of this? I know. I have 20 zombies. I'm gonna bring in 20 of the greatest makeup artists of all time who did not work on the video. Because there were plenty of makeup artists who worked on that video who were very excited to come and work on it again. No. To me, it was very important for my generation who were inspired by that video to get their chance to work on it. Hey, we're making zombies. One of my mentors, 3-time Academy Award winner, V. Neal, who was very active at that time, could not work on the video because she was working on something else and was forever devastated that she was the only one of that era to not work on that video. She was the very first person I called and the very first person that said yes. She's basically retired. She was like, there's no way I'm missing that a second time.
First of all, I was probably one of the only makeup artists that didn't get to do the original because I couldn't get off my show because I couldn't replace myself because everybody was working on Thriller. So just to be here tonight is so freaking amazing, and I'm so excited. And it was funny, I was watching the video over and over at home, and I went, I want to do that girl. And I got here, and they handed me the box that was her, and I went, yay!
No pressure.
I was going to use the oatmeal stuff, but I thought maybe I'll just use sponge instead. Yeah, bitch. Whatever,
Okay.
I don't know.
See, when you have somebody like a 3-time Academy Award winner like V. Neal,
Really
you
stuff.
come up with amazing, amazing ideas for a makeup that at the time was not really that great, but now it's being risen to the level of Oscar worthy. I had the children of makeup artists who were on that set and doing those makeups. So you start with low lights usually in the zombie makeup, painting all the darks, and then you go in and start pumping in highlights, and then you enhance the low lights. So you create, if it's just paint, an incredibly three-dimensional effect, which is really exciting. And when you have a master like 2-time Oscar winner Dave Anderson, you get amazing results. Dave did the zombie his father did in the video.
And for Jafar, in that one video, Michael's hair changed at least 4 times. So there were different aspects of the video where I had to match the hair to the video at that specific moment, and there were at least 4 changes.
You know, we're always doing every day, sometimes within a day, we're doing subtle changes depending on what we're shooting.
That night, I mean, we were working nights. Those 2 nights, I didn't sit down one time. I was up every take, just adjusting hair and making sure it matched the video. But it was fun. It was great. I loved it.
And then when the music started and they started dancing, the whole crew was kind of, shoulders popping, dancing around.
Putting the whole red outfit on I had to kind of like realize that I'm recreating the most iconic video of all time and in the actual space where he did it.
I mean, the same street that he shot 42 years earlier. And walking onto that set and hearing Thriller blasting through the stereo.
My heart is like bursting. It's amazing.
Pulling up in the car, seeing zombies walking around, right? Seeing the crew dressed up with Wolfman head things on.
Wait, this is very meta. This is behind the scenes at the making of the video that had the movie. So this is the character from the movie in the video, behind the scenes. Ooh!
And everyone was dancing around, on the set. And I was like, this is magical to see everyone so excited about it.
I'm still like, did we really shoot Thriller? Right? So iconic, scary iconic.
And Jafar and all the dancers, man, they killed it. They did a great job. They did a great job. They got it down, so that was an iconic night for me. That was like a movie in itself to film Thriller.
You're a pretty good-looking kid. You sure you want to do this?
I'm not a kid anymore. And my nose is too big.
Not sure that's true.
You see, my face isn't symmetrical for the photographs and all. I have to be perfect.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because visual effects normally are something that is loud at times and exciting to watch. In this case, it was something that you shouldn't notice at all. And it's got to look real. And it's got to look like a film that has no visual effects. And there's a lot.
Big visual effects movie is going to be over 1,000 shots. A huge visual effects movie will have 3,000 shots, something like that. We ended up with about 1,700 shots in the final edit and another 1,000 that we'd started and dropped along the way.
I didn't realize that going in, I have to say. Because it's never on the page, right? You're reading the script. And then you figure out, well, wait, he's having these plastic surgeries. The look's got to be different. The nose is different. And Bill was a genius. Absolute best I've ever worked with in hair and makeup to transition Jafar into Michael.
When we did the test, one of the things that we were quite aware of is that we knew there was going to be a digital element, mainly the nose. We knew that I could only add, Jafar has a healthy nose. From his profile, he has a bit of an arc to his nose. So we knew that we could never get rid of that. And even by me adding slight appliances to create more of the shape and feel of Michael's nose, we would never be able to get his little upturned, smaller nose. So there was always going to be a digital element.
And so that's where we started. Like 2 noses would be done by Bill Corso, and the other ones would be done by VFX.
And I think some of those tests went a bit extreme. They thought, oh, well, we can do a lot and make him look really a lot like Michael. And Graham realized quickly that that was not necessary. We don't need to do that. It was off-putting.
He said, you know, Jafar is not world-renowned. We don't want him to come in a press conference and nobody recognize him because we modified Jafar to look like Michael Jackson so much that nobody knows Jafar was playing him.
The nose, over time, famously got smaller and smaller, which wasn't something we could always achieve in camera with prosthetic.
And I told Louis right out of the gate, like, look, I've worked with this stuff a lot. I've done a lot of digital work myself, and I'd love to be really involved, and I'd love to work in tandem with you. Knowing you're gonna have to come in and work on my work, I'd love to have this big collaboration between the two of us. And he was excited for that. And as most people usually are, you know, it only makes the work better if the two departments can work together.
A lot of it is simple makeup starting to run. It's the nose.
But for young Michael, for Giuliano, he had a scar on his forehead.
And Michael didn't, so we had to remove that scar.
It would have been something that could have been covered by makeup effects, but that would have required a few hours a day of prep time. In the end, we had an in-house visual effects artist who would just take the shots as we cut them in, go ahead and paint them out. It would take them a few hours per shot. So it would save production time to do that part in post.
Not that complex, but to be accurate, we had to remove it, you know? Like back in the days, they wouldn't have been able to do that.
But in the end, from young to old, every shot of Michael Jackson had some visual effect added to it.
There was always something in the frame that needed to be touched or brought to life a certain way, you know? Some of the real locations weren't kept up as much, and, you know, we sent our production designers in and they spruce it up, and then visual effects would add some touches to help it, you know, things like that.
One of the biggest parts of this film, one of the most impactful elements of this project are the concerts. You know, you're gonna get the drama of Michael's life, but you're really gonna enjoy the ride and the feel of being at these concerts and experiencing his music in the settings where he was able to share that with the world. And that took a lot of careful planning, of studying historically what these stadiums look like, what the crowds looked like, how big they were, what that mass became as he became more and more famous, and how many bodies would cram into these stadiums.
And so it's all these tiny details and even some background details, which I'm sure probably no one will ever notice. But if we hadn't addressed it, it would pop out immediately. And so it is really, I laugh with Greg a lot, is that you put in so much work and really no one will ever see it because it's that good. And that's what we want with visual effects.
But from Dodger Stadium, Wembley Stadium, Madison Square Garden, we had to study all of those stadiums at that particular time period and then put crowds together. We'd film some actors, some extras doing different movements, but eventually we'd have to extend that out to thousands and thousands of bodies.
Some shots were rendered at 8K, so we had like the fine resolution. You don't see a pixel, you see somebody that's reduced to a pixel in our shots. So the crowd, I think it feels real to the point that I hope nobody will say, oh, this is CG. That people will forget and they feel like they're at the concert with Michael.
They were a great team. They worked so hard. I kept changing things, right? So they would be like, oh God, here we go again. You know, and I know our visual effects budget was through the roof, but it is a visual effects superhero level movie because Michael Jackson, I think, was a superhero.
It is like a Star Wars movie, but you would notice it. But yeah, there's a lot of visual effects in this film.
So we cannot cut corners here. And we have to do a visual effects pass of the script and really look at that. Bubbles, the llamas, the giraffe, everything. And to really make it feel real, authentic.
And so you have to get in there and start sort of forming and molding this clay and putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah, this was unique. Myself and Graham had meetings with just about most of the crew members before they signed up for the movie. They all had great love for Michael and respect for Michael, and they're obviously talented at what they do.
I'm transported back to being 10, and if someone had told me, my 10-year-old self, that I would be here at this moment, reacting what I had envisioned that day, I would have said no way.
Feeling the passion of everyone on crew, doing it for one reason, for Michael, was amazing.
But then it developed over time where I had family working on the movie, in the movie, Graham's daughters working in the movie, on the movie. Ed Novak, our sound guy's son, works with Ed in the movie, right? All of a sudden, you started to see people's family all working on the movie together. And then the crew members that came into the movie were like family.
I am so proud and again privileged to be a part of this, and I want people to experience our joy, and there's no way they're not going to. This movie was made with love.
It was a completely different experience since day one, and all of that was down to every single crew member really loving what they were doing and loving Michael and loving the story we were telling.
I remember all the different t-shirts they'd come wearing. Sometimes I look to the side of the stage, there'd be some trying to learn a move or doing the zombie dance.
Hey guys, just pause right where you are.
We all loved each other. I guess we all really knew, as did Jafar when he took on this role, that there was something bigger at hand.
You really felt that energy on set of how many people were doing this purely because they loved it, because they love making movies, and because they have this love for Michael Jackson.
I couldn't live without Michael Jackson's music. I feel like Michael Jackson's music helps you live better.
That love they had for Michael really was felt, and you can see it, and that was every day.
And when we talked about being number one on the call sheet and the responsibility that comes with that, you're number one. People are watching you, watching your behavior, and they're going to know how to move the other actors, etc. And I want you to be the king, like your uncle.
It does feel like Jafar's taken on like a bit of a spiritual journey to really, give people a bit of that love and that high quality performance of a superstar that they thought was long gone, but he lives again. And it's gonna sound so hokey, but of course he lives on in all of us.
We all really, really love Michael Jackson. I mean, who doesn't love Michael Jackson? But we really wanted to get this right.
And the way people treated each other every day was warm in the sense that we all had one goal, was to do a strong, beautiful movie for Michael.
The master storyteller right here. Let's go.
It was an opportunity of a lifetime. It's definitely a defining moment in my life.
Thank you.
It's the type of experience that reshapes who you are as a person for the better, and I have so many takeaways from it that I will continue to apply to my own life moving forward.
It's a great marker in life. It's one of those things that you can feel Michael's presence. It just became a real family-oriented environment that I've never experienced before like that. Never.
Filmmaking is a collaboration of many, 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 many people. And the closer you are as a family, the more you're going to win. I truly believe that.
And that's a wrap.